Good morning, everyone, and I'm coming to you live from the basement of the Naples Library. My name is Allie Makepeace, and I'm here with a look at our daily weather forecast. We start this morning with a low of 73, and we peak in temperature by the mid-afternoon with a high of 85. We're looking at a beautiful day, starting with bright, beautiful sunshine, and watching some clouds roll in right around 3 p.m. Tonight the temperature will drop to the mid-60s, and then this weekend it looks like sunshine and high 80s, a perfect weekend to be out on the water. Wait a second, this isn't a weather forecast, this is supposed to be story time. Duh! No, but really I always wanted to do that. So, if you were here for the Wednesday Storytime snippet, you would know that this week's theme is weather. So I thought I would start with a little bit of a weather forecast, although I can't see any weather because I'm in the basement of the library. So I just looked it up on my phone. So this week, we're talking about weather. In other words, what's happening in the sky today and how that affects us down here on the ground. So if you need a review of Wednesday's video, you can totally look at it on the Naples Library page. It's still up. There's lots of really cool interactive things happening and a little song. But I can kind of review just shortly what we went through. We learned all about different types of weather. We learned sunny, rainy, foggy, we learned snowy, we learned thunderstorms, and we learned about tornadoes. Crazy weather, right? We also learned about 4 different types of clouds on Wednesday, which was really interesting. And today we get to read 3 different books, all have different weather in them that help to push the story forward, which is a really interesting look at how the weather affects what's happening around us, right? Right. So the first 2 are pretty normal weather books, and then the third one is super silly weather. So make sure you stay tuned in until the last one, okay guys? We're going to go ahead and start because we might as well. Our first book of the day is called A Boy, a Ball, and a Dog. It's by Gianna Marino, and it is a Roaring Book Press book. It's published by Roaring Book Press, and I have permission to read this book to you today. I'm going to get these out of the way because I realize they're in our screen. Sorry. Okay. A boy, a ball, and a dog. There was never a ball that the boy wouldn't throw. Or one that his dog couldn't catch. Man, those are the best relationships. A kid and a dog. Until one day, the wind changed. This ball, the dog thought, I might not catch. Can you see what that ball actually is? Is that a ball? No. What is it? Come back, said the boy. But the ball didn't listen. Woof, barked the dog. But the wind didn't listen either. What is that up there in the sky? Can you tell me? It's a balloon! Wait, said the boy. Whoosh, went the wind. Woof, barked the dog. Can you tell me what color that balloon is? Can you tell me? It looks like it's almost red, but it's actually orange. Here we can see that the ball or balloon starts here by the tree, and then it's blowing up past the bookstore, past all those trees, whoosh, whoosh, in the wind. Can you be the wind? Whoosh, 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 past all the oysters, past all the shops, and out onto the water. This ball, the dog thought, I must catch. So out goes the balloon onto the water, and you can see the dog running right after it. Oh no, he's gonna get to the end of the dock. What's he gonna do when he gets there? And he did. That dog ran to the end of the dock and he jumped into the air and he caught the balloon by the string. But when he turned, the boy was nowhere to be found. Well, what good was a ball without a boy? Thought the dog. Where's your friend, dog? Aroo, says the dog. Whoosh! As he made that noise, he let go of the balloon and whoosh! The wind swept it away. It was almost lost forever. Until the wind changed again. Whoosh, 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 says the wind. Whoosh, 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 went the wind. Look at it, it's changing and it's so crazy the birds are having a hard time flying. Wow. Whoosh, 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 went the wind. Look, it's going the opposite direction. Remember before it was going this way up the hill? Now it's going this way down the hill. See? The balloon is going this direction. And you can see if you look real close that up there in the tree is the boy waiting for the balloon. Woof, 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 barked the dog, who was still way down here. You better get there quick, come on. Yes, said the boy. He got it. There was never a ball the boy wouldn't throw. Or one that his dog couldn't catch. That dog went all the way down and jumped in the water to get that ball for that boy. And then he accidentally dropped it and it came back to the boy anyway. So the boy gave it back to his dog. And they lived happily ever after. The end. So what type of weather was this book about? The wind. All right. Our next book is called Cloud Country. And this was written by a couple different people. So the ideas and the illustrations are by Noah Klosek. And the words were written by Bonnie Becker. So they worked together to write this book. This is published by Disney Hyperion, and it's also a Pixar book too. Cloud Country. I love the pictures in this book. They're beautiful, so nice. So we open the book and we're way up in the sky looking down at the earth. We're way up with all of the clouds. And this cloud is a little girl cloud. You see her? Her name is Gale. Gale is also a type of weather pattern. Sometimes gales pop up really quick, and they're like a really strong windstorm that happens really quick, and then they're like over. So Gale is also her name. Gale floated on a warm breeze, watching the land below. Far off, a deer trotted across a meadow. Ducklings scrambled after their mother. Gale sighed, wishing she could look at the world like this forever. Man, I wish I could look at the world like that forever. Earth gazing again, said her mother. Gale nodded. She knew she should have been practicing her cloud shapes. Today was Formation School graduation day, when all of the young cloudlets, like Gale, would show the guardians what cloud shapes they could make and what type of cloud they were going to grow up to be. Already, other cloudlets and their families were swiftly floating by Gale. Gale couldn't help noticing how well they drifted and billowed. Though she had been practicing all year, she couldn't even make one real cloud shape. She closed her eyes tightly and tried again. She thought dark and stormy thoughts. Here she is down here thinking those dark, stormy thoughts. Does this look like a cumulonimbus cloud? She asked her little brother Nimba. She's saying about this cloud that she just made. Now what does that cloud look like to you? Elephant cloud, cried Nimba. And he was right, it looked just like an elephant. Cumulonimbus clouds are storm clouds, like we learned on Wednesday. She was trying to make storm clouds, but she just made an elephant cloud. Gale thought puffy, fluffy, fat-cheeked thoughts, hoping to create a cumulus cloud. Those are those big, puffy cotton clouds. What does that one look like to you? Can you see a shape in this cloud? Lamb cloud! Nimba clapped his hands. Does it look like a little lamb to you? Can you see where the feet of the lamb would be? Here's some feet and here's some feet. It's like he's hopping up over the cloud. See it? Don't worry, Mama said. I know you can do it, Gale. She hoped Mama was right. It would be wonderful to graduate from Formation School, forming a cloud shape she could be proud of. But Gale was out of time to practice. The other cloudlets in Gale's class were moving onto the stage. This is her time to shine. She's nervous. The guardian called each student forward one by one. Cirrus clouds stretched into a wispy stratus. We learned about stratus clouds on Wednesday. Those are the ones that look like feathers. Stratos cloud rose into a wide alto cumulus and disappeared. Bluster's cloud whirled around and around and around. Everyone knew he wanted to make funnel clouds when he grew up. Can you recognize this shape from Wednesday's snippet? When wind turns clouds round and round and round really fast, do you know what that makes? Tornadoes. So this guy's going to grow up and make tornadoes for a living. And this guy's going to make feathery stratus clouds. Soon it was Gale's turn. Formation? Asked the head guardian. Cumulus cloud, she mumbled. Her stomach felt full of tiny slivers of lightning. But Gale took a deep breath and thought plump, floaty, cumulus thoughts. She tried her hardest. What does this cloud look like to you? It doesn't look like an ordinary cloud, does it? Does it look maybe like a boat? Tugboat? Guessed the head guardian. Quickly, Gale tried again. She thought fierce, flashing, cumulonimbus storm cloud thoughts. What's that one look like? Dog? Another guardian guessed. They were looking at each other now, and Gale could hear everyone else murmuring. Would you like to try once more? The head guardian asked. Gale couldn't help it. She began to rain. Raindrops pitter-pattered down her cheeks. She had spent too much time looking at the land below after all. Oh, how sad. The head guardian tried again. No other formations? He asked. No, Gale whispered. Just things like mountains and bears and frogs. The crowd gasped. Only land below shapes? Asked the oldest guardian. Gale nodded. She could see Mama's worried face. The guardians bent their heads to talk with each other. Finally, the oldest guardian knelt beside her. We are so glad to finally find you, Gale. His voice was gentle. We've been waiting for another daydream cloud for a very long time. Daydream cloud? Gale had never heard of that. You will make fish and boats and waterfalls and crows, said the head guardian. You'll make castles in the air, said another. Gale was confused. I'd make my own shapes? She asked. The oldest guardian laughed. That's what daydream clouds do. They make shapes from the land below, shapes the world can dream on. Congratulations, class, the head guardian announced. You have all graduated from formation school. Wow. Gale could hardly believe it. She would be allowed to earth gaze all day long. She could create shapes of the many things that she loved. The swaying trees, the lumbering bears, the great fish. Wowee! Gale twirled so fast that she nearly made a funnel cloud. How beautiful. Gale's mother hugged her. I'm so proud of you, she said. Her little brother Nimba reached for her hand. Gale, happy? He said. Gale nodded. She thought happy, puffy thoughts. Not because she was trying to make a cumulus cloud. But because she believed that happy, puffy thoughts would make the best shapes for the land below to dream on. Look, she made all sorts of fish out of clouds. Isn't it so great that even though she was different from everybody else, she found her space in the world just by doing what she loved the most? And even though she tried to fit in, she just couldn't because she's different. And that's totally okay. So we learned all about clouds in that book, didn't we? All right, the last book. I promised you silly, and I'm here to deliver silly. So this book is called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And this is by Judy Barrett. and it's published by Macmillan Books. This is an old book. This is made back in the 1970s. And it reminds me, this type of book is about really funny, silly weather. And it reminds me of this song that I know that goes a little like this. It's from Barney, if you guys have seen Barney before. The song is, if all of the raindrops were bubbles, no, sorry. If all of the raindrops were lemon drops and gumdrops, oh what a rain that would be. Standing outside with my mouth open wide, ah, 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 ah. If all of the raindrops were gumdrops and lemon drops, oh what a rain that would be. So that kind of reminds me of this book, because they're talking about when the rain comes down, you can actually like eat the rain because it's candy. Well, this happens in this book, but it's not quite candy. So let's find out what the weather would be like if it were food. All right. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air and headed toward the kitchen ceiling. And landed right on Henry. Ah! Henry cried out. After we realized the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed. Even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us about the best tall tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across the ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there was a tiny town of Chewandswallow. Chewandswallow? What kind of name for a town is that? In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chewandswallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food that they could possibly eat. The only thing that was really different about Chewandswallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Okay, a little bit weird. Not sure if I'd eat it, but hey, this is just a storybook, right? Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. And sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. Look at all that weird food weather happening. This is the soup. That's tomato soup coming from the sky. How silly. And there is the snow made out of peas and mashed potatoes. And the big old hamburger clouds. About to rain some hamburgers on all y'all. Better open up wide. Hope you're hungry. Hope you like hamburgers, because that's what you're getting. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction of the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them everywhere. That way they'd always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were any leftovers, and there usually were, people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's stop right there and look at all this weird food happening. Those are definitely pancakes coming from the sky. And that lady's got her hand out of her window, catching one on a plate. How silly. This looks like different types of pie while they're playing a baseball game. Good thing they brought all their plates. Good thing they're hungry. This looks like tomato soup in an upside down umbrella. Oh my goodness, it just keeps getting sillier. And this is a woman sprinting down the sidewalk to catch a couple legs of chicken. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny-side-up eggs moved in and followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time, it rained milk afterwards. Look at these squirrels. This one's like, ouch! Get out of the way! Oh, I slipped on some jelly! This one's like, wow, eggs are actually pretty delicious. Full of protein. For lunch one day, frankfurters, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then when the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans, a drizzle of soda finished off the meal. Look, they have holes in their ceiling just especially for the weather. I'm actually a little bit confused because this is a restaurant, and if they don't serve food, must be they're just a place where people can go to receive the food that comes from the sky, right? That's silly. Dinner came one night and consisted of lamb chops, becoming very heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a gradual clearing with a wonderful jello setting in the west. Look, there are lamb chops all over the ground and baked potatoes. I wonder what the deer think of. Oh my goodness, look at those antlers. There's a lamb chop and 2 baked potatoes on his antlers. The sanitation department of Chewandswallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats in town. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. And the rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's flower gardens. Look at that giant fork and that giant spoon putting things on a giant, giant plate. Now that's a piece of machinery. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. Here's a newspaper from the town, the Chewandswallow Digest. Spaghetti ties up town. Record-breaking pasta fall causes chaos. Traffic snarled on Lower Intestine Street. Looks like no one can drive anywhere, friends. We're all tied up in noodles. One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. Phew, said the townspeople. This stinks. The next day there was only broccoli, all overcooked. Yuck. Trying to enjoy a romantic meal while eating gross broccoli just doesn't work out. And the next day, there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Yuck! Floyd's birthday party is a flop. Another day, there was pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. People were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. Oh no. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye bread and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they'd ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it just stayed there and got staler and staler. Oh my goodness, look at that. Whoa, there was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school, and no one could get it off because of its weight. So they had to close school. Well, sometimes we experience schools closing because of the weather too. So I guess it only makes sense that they experience school closing because of the weather, right? Only it's not a snow day, it's a pancake day. Lunch one day brought 15 inches of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomach ache. Ooh, delicious, but man, that could hurt your belly after a while. Oh goodness, what's happening now? We talked about this type of weather on Wednesday. What is that? Guys, what is that? A tornado. There was an awful salt and pepper wind accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. And then this random lady just joyfully reading her book in part of her house that's been swept up by a tomato tornado. This kid's just trying to brush his teeth. Come on now, who wants to brush your teeth with tomatoes? And this poor chicken has lost his feathers. This is a disaster. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by the giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up and there was no more school for the children. Oh my gosh. Let's look at this picture. Look at all this stuff. We got giant donuts. We got a huge piece of pizza just flopping on the side of a house. We got meatballs the size of small cars. Bacon flapping over a street lamp here. We got rigatoni this time instead of spaghetti. Look, we got alphabet soup on the ground that says, "Look out!" This guy's got a rigatoni noodle on his head. There's giant olives on the church steeple. Slices of cheese. We've got ice cream happening all over the mountains. Steaks in the sky. Those look like some pretty high stakes to me, too. Look, there's a dill pickle coming through her living room. No one wants a dill pickle through your roof. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chewandswallow forever. It was a matter of survival at this point. The people glued together giant pieces of stale bread, sandwich style, with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts made of food to a new land. He's got a sandwich boat and he's not afraid to use it. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well over the ocean, well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. Okay. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found it odd that food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except for boring old rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again, and nobody dared to go back to Chewandswallow to find out what had happened to that little town. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his goodnight kiss. The next morning we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. And it's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell the mashed potatoes. The end. Now that's a super silly story, isn't it? I hope you learned a little bit about weather today while reading these books with me, and a little bit about how to be silly, and a little bit about how to be you, even if everybody else is different. And I hope that I will see you next Wednesday at the Storytime snippet of the week. And I hope that you all have a really, really blessed, beautiful, high 80s, sunny yet cloudy day. Have a good one. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.